All right, everybody. Hey, welcome back to the next episode of the Messy Middle One Mom's Journey to Build a Profitable Business. This is Anita and Lani, your host, and I'm joined today by my new friend, Lani Jackson. So welcome, Lani, to the show. We're so happy to have you here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited about this podcast. I love your message and platform. So excited to be here.
Yes, awesome. Okay, so tell us a little bit about yourself. We were doing like our pre-interview conversation, get to know one another. That I would just say right now, like, ladies and gentlemen, as you're listening today, like, sharpen your pencils, start taking some notes, as this lady's going to drop some fire as we talk today about being able to really, I love this. She was talking to me earlier about profiting in time, energy, impact, fulfillment, marketing, all this kind of stuff. Like, those are some of the topics that we're going to touch on today. And you're just going to be so blessed by listening into Lani today. So Lani, give us a little bit of your background and then we'll just dive into the episode.
Thank you so much. I love talking about my story because I can relate to your podcast name, The Messy.
Yeah.
Because I feel like everything I've been doing is very messy. I started my first business as an entrepreneur with one baby, and now I have 6 kids. And pivoting along the way, growing a business while juggling babies, it's a lot. And I wasn't always a business strategist and coach, but before I loved building other women's businesses. I love getting with them, networking groups and entrepreneur meetups. And I noticed myself building their businesses over mine and brainstorming with them. And jokingly said, "Day, I really wish someone would pay me to do this." And they're like, "Yeah, we know you could do that. It's called coaching." I've been a business strategist and mindset coach for 5 years. And really, one of the things that I am passionate about is disrupting this idea that we have to make a certain amount per month, the 10K months, the 100K months, the whatever, fill in the blank months or days, whatever it is that you're saying you have to do in order to have success. That number, that bar keeps raising. And I don't love when people come in and say, just copy what I do, plug and play this exact thing, this exact email sequence, this exact class, this exact, and fill in whatever it is that they're marketing and say, you'll get the same success as I do. That never worked for me. And it used to discourage me and make me feel like something is wrong with me. But what I realized is I really needed to customize my business to look like me, and then to start measuring my profits in not just the money that was coming in, but also the time profit, the income profit, the energy profit, and the fulfillment. If I did all 4 of those, I found myself on such a better trajectory. I found myself enjoying my business right now. I'm enjoying the journey of building that career, the legacy, the big business vision that I had. And I see over and over again with the women I'm working with that they want the exact same thing, because most of us as women entrepreneurs are burnt out, we're overwhelmed, we're exhausted, we don't have enough time, we have much to do. And that's not the life I want to live.
Yeah.
So that's my big passion, is to help women entrepreneurs break out of that cycle and embrace the new profit margins that they can measure right now.
Oh, I love that because it's powerful for 2 big ways. Number one, it totally shifts our mindset to what's possible right now, right? What's in our hands, what's in our minds, what's our skill set that we already have that we can measure success, and radically shift my definition of success so I can actually start enjoying the journey. Because don't we know the other alternative is I leave all my goals like right beyond arm's reach, right? And as entrepreneurs, we do this to ourselves. My goal is X. And then as I'm on my way to X, I change it to Y. And then I'm on my way to Y and I change it to Z. And I'm not even filling in numbers on purpose. The reason is because that mindset on the other side of the coin is everything is always way out here. And I feel a constant feeling of overwhelm and exhaustion and never getting ahead. And when we add all the other things, like I want to be, for me in my journey, it was like, I always want to be an intentional mom. We homeschool. So there's a requirement there for me and a priority there for me and what I'm doing with my kids. So I love what you're talking about, Lani, like totally just opening up some new ideas in my mind about some different things, because really what you said is that you can start tracking and start experiencing success in the journey right now, and that things don't have to be so far beyond the reach. So is there anything else that you want to add to that? Those are just my perspective of what you're saying, but feel free to correct me if I'm off track.
Oh, no, you're right on. You're spot on. It was a challenge to me because I was in my own journey as building a business myself. A lot of days I would see myself repeating the same story of I'm so overwhelmed. I have too much to do and not enough time to do it. And I was in this like constant mode of like, how am I going to make more money? How am I going to make the cash? How am I going to do this? And instead of seeing the fact that, hey, I'm a mom of 6 kids that are really little right now, and they're never going to be this age again. And I want to enjoy this moment. And I also can build my business. It's not a one or the other. It's not a,
Mhm.
I have to wait until I have this cash flow to be able to say I have the time availability. And so I started looking for ways to start measuring, how am I profiting in time? Oh,
Mm,
look, I'm only working 20 hours a week, 15 hours a week, and I'm making money. Who gets to do that?
yeah.
Who else gets, like, I get to choose to only show up in my business and do marketing for what, maybe 10 minutes a day? And I was like, I adjusted it instead of forcing myself to be stressed and on Facebook and social media and
Mm.
run the rat race of what all these algorithms are telling us to do. I just said, I don't have to do it that way. I can
Right.
do it what works for me. And I love being able to say that to someone else, is like, there is no one right way to build your business.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's what's like, give yourself that freedom.
Yeah. Okay. What else is really awesome about what you're talking about? So, the principles that we hear, especially in the online space, I'm going to couch it inside of those parameters. In the online space, when we hear other gurus say, to have the value ladder, and it's got to go from the
Mhm.
tiny offer into all the stuff that we hear all day long. Here's what I'm noticing, and maybe you tell me your perspective on this, is that it's not that the elements are wrong, but sometimes they're just out of sequence. Somebody has told me in the marketing world that I have to do this in order to do this in order to do this, and that's the only recipe for success. And don't we know in life, like, there's lots of ways to get to and define the success that we're looking at. And so it's almost what I'm hearing you say is you're like shuffling around the puzzle pieces in a way that fit you and your business and your life and where you're at. Because the other element is the season that we're in when our kids are little babies is very different than when they're toddlers and school age and teenagers and beyond and all that kind of stuff. So maybe unpack that a little bit more. What I'm hearing you say is like the elements are there, but we're going to shift the way that we view them, or we're going to shift the way that we present them to the marketplace.
Absolutely. You should have a marketing strategy. That's number one. Like, I don't tell people like you can just show up and do whatever you want. There's chaos and it'll work. We don't want to throw spaghetti at the wall. That's not the goal here. We want to build a flexible, sustainable strategy that works for the time that you're in right now, the season that you're in, and also you. How does it align with you? I have a client who really gets so much stress around being on social media. Like, it causes so much anxiety. Is also ways to build your business and market yourself without social media.
Mhm.
And that's not what normal people would say, right? Everybody's going to say, well, you have to be on Instagram making reels, doing it this many times a week.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of shoulds and have tos. And I want to disrupt that. There's no run right way to build your business, but you do have to have a strategy and you have to commit to it. It doesn't require necessarily consistency. It requires sustainable action, is the
Mhm.
words that I like to use.
Love it.
So if we can just say, hey, I'm going to take the time to know myself. I'm going to understand my time. I'm going to understand my goals. I'm going to understand my zone of genius and how I like to show up. What is the best way I can use my voice and platforms, and then lean into them and commit to them and use them to build connections. That's all marketing strategy is. It's just connection based marketing. And so if we're looking at what we're doing in our everyday activities, it doesn't have to look exact. You and I, we're both building big businesses, but way that we do it does not have to look exactly the same.
Yeah.
And the way we measure it doesn't have to look exactly the same. And so asking ourselves to say, hey, have I given myself permission to step back and say, what is the right thing for me?
Yeah.
And how do I want to build this?
I love that. Okay, can you teach us a little bit more about your connection marketing? Talk to the audience about what is connection marketing? What does that mean? What's your framework around that to give us some just some markers of what we're
Mhm.
going to look for, and then of course, as we know, like, then we can customize it for ourselves.
Yes. So I love making business really simple. Business
Mhm.
strategy should be simple. We don't have to make it complicated. And connection marketing is the strategy that I have really leaned into as a baseline. I think every business, I don't care what business you have, whether you're a brick and mortar or you're an online service-based business, you have pieces of this framework in your business. And the more you understand it and lean into it, the more you can expand and grow.
Mhm.
So it's 3 C's: connections. This is your leads. How are you getting new people into your world?
Mhm.
How am I connecting with new people? Then we have conversations. How am I taking those connections and helping them know me and I know them better every single day, every single week? And then conversions. How am I taking them from the connection to the conversation to a sale? Do I have that process down? Am I good at it? Is it in a flow? Am I doing it all the time or just every once in a while?
Yeah.
So that's where you actually get to the whole, do you want to buy? So if we can look at those 3 pieces of our business and say in the marketing, how am I doing each one of those pieces every single week, every single month?
Awesome. I love that. And do you have like some metrics that people follow and measure success in the fact that sometimes we can get caught up in I just did a whole bunch of stuff today. And did you do the right activities? And then measuring the success of those activities, because we know, especially if you've been in the entrepreneur world for a little bit, busy does not always translate to dollars. It almost never
Oh,
does.
yeah.
It's the focused effort is what we're talking about here. So how do we measure the success of our marketing campaigns?
I would look at all 3 areas and say, where am I getting stuck? Where am I bottlenecking? Because most of the time when I'm working with somebody new coming into my world, there is a bottleneck or a space where they're only focusing on just one area. So they might be like, hey, I'm getting new leads every single week. I'm getting more followers on Instagram, more people in my Facebook group. They're getting tons and tons of leads, but they're not having conversations. They're jumping over and making an offer to a sale
Yeah.
without getting to know them, without building that know and trust factor.
Right.
That somebody said to me the other day, they're like, the coaching industry is dying. And I'm like, no, the coaching industry is changing because people no longer will clickbait of get my exact system that built my business to 100K in 30 days. They no longer believe that because they are understanding they need more information and they want to know more about you.
Yeah.
So how are you going from that person that follows you, that comes into your email list, that comes on into your Facebook group, that listens to your podcast, whatever it is, those connections, how are you then taking them into a conversation and getting to know them and letting them really understand that you see them, you understand them, their vision, their pain point, and how fast they want to get there? Because if you can do that, then the sales part comes easy. It's very natural. So if you can look at your marketing efforts, one, are you actually doing them? Because sometimes we think we're doing them and we're not. How am I getting new people into my world every week? And what does that volume look like? And what volume do I need specifically for my business? Because some businesses have a low ticket offer, they need a higher volume than someone with a high ticket offer. You don't need as many people if you're based off your goals. And then how many conversations am I having? And how am I intentionally creating a way for people to talk back to me and to communicate with me? Am I getting in the DMs? Are you responding to my emails? Are you talking to me on my posts that I'm creating on social media? If people aren't talking back to you, you are not having a conversation. You are shouting at them, and then you wonder why they aren't buying.
Yeah. I love that.
And then the sales, of course, will be an obvious metric as well. So if I'm not making any conversions in sales, I could go backwards and say, how are my connections doing? Oh, I'm still getting connections. I've dropped off on my conversations. I'm not having enough of them.
Yeah. I
So
love that.
we can go in there and start to see it's a funnel for sure. More leads, less conversations, and then you're qualifying people in the conversations for your offers. But you should be measuring that every single month.
Yeah. I know my coach will remind me all the time. She'll say, hey, it takes about 7.5 hours for someone to be in your sphere, in your world, for them to be able to even start to understand you, your offer, your story, all that kind of stuff. And so if we think about that, and then in the context of like quick, short blurbs of information, right? Long form content, the definition of long form content is now a 20-minute YouTube podcast. That's long form. And then we slice all that up and put it on all these platforms. And that's great. I love all that. Keep doing all that stuff. But recognize that if somebody only observes my content for a 30-second or 1 minute or 2-minute reel, and they need to get to around 7.5 hours of being exposed to me, then that's a big jump. It
Mhm.
can be a long runway and a long path to get to cash. Yeah, we have a strategy in our business to be able to overcome that very quickly. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
And really, you understand that timeline. What does that look like for you? And how can I speed that up?
Yeah.
And what I have really learned with myself and with my clients is if we can get into that personalized conversation and facilitate opportunities for them to talk to us, not so that we can come with our agenda. Obviously we do want them, but we come from a place of service and wanting to know them. And that is what people are responding to right now because they're tired of being a cog in the wheel.
Oh, yeah.
They're tired of not being seen. We're so lonely because social media is connecting us so much. We actually are not making deep enough connections. So how are you helping them know and understand that you see them? You aren't just saying like you have this problem and you're telling them what their problem is. Let them tell you what their problem is. Let them tell you what their vision is. And that is where you can be like, girl, I got the best solution for you. Let me help. And they already want to trust you because you've taken the time to really see and understand them.
Yeah.
And I have people who have come to me and after a year of being in my funnel, people who join my group and program after 2 weeks. It just depends. I'm not here to force it to happen. I'm here to say, I'm going to keep showing up in these 3 areas because I know it's going to work.
I love that. That's so beautiful. I think you and I are very aligned on the servant's heart approach.
Yes.
Because I've observed people do it different ways. And I don't know, just for me, it's yucky. I don't want anything to do with it. And I would agree with you. And the higher the entrepreneur gets in their business, that actually, in many cases, the more lonely they become.
Yes.
Because if they have a team around them, if they have an image, a style that they are, then it gets more and more difficult for those folks to be able to find places where they can really be real. I've chatted with some clients and oh, my goodness, like breakdown moments happen in those conversations where they're like, wow, you can just let me be me and you be you. And I don't know, in our business, we say, if it's a good fit, hooray. If it's not a good fit, hooray too.
Yes.
We're actually not all, I don't believe that God's designed us to all work with everybody. And
No.
that's super cool. So do you have an element in your marketing structure, Lani, that can actually both attract the right people and repel the wrong people all at the same time? How do you handle that?
Yes. Oh, that's such a good question. I think it really comes into where your focus is when you're starting out that first connection piece.
Okay.
I want to start connecting with the right people so I can then start the conversations with the right people. Because if I'm really leaning into it from a place of understanding my people and who is the right fit for me, it can really help me out. And one thing I've learned the hard way, I will tell you this, because I've learned is when we start from a place of negativity or the pain point is super focused. So I know a lot of people are like, understand your client's pain point and, talk to them about their pain points. Yes, we should understand their pain points. Yes, we should talk to them about their pain points. But for me personally, what I've seen, and I see this in my clients' marketing too, when we focus on the pain point, we bring a lot of people who are in pain and who are actually comfortable in pain because it is actually easier to stay in overwhelm and in frustration and in fight or flight mode because you are fully stimulated in your body. And this is scientific. It is an adrenaline rush. So to be in the opposite where you're in that vision of, I have freedom and I am content and I have peace and I have calmness in my business, that is not normal. And that is not fully engaging our system. So I want people who are really focused on where they're going with that vision and they're craving that instead of being super excited to just be in like stressed out mode because they don't want to invest in changing and they don't believe in that change. So really in our marketing, focusing on understanding where they want to go and saying, what is the obstacle keeping you from that? Because I don't want to drag you to that vision as a coach when you want to hold on to the pain and the fear through the obstacle. I have a whole training in my program. It's the expansion model where we talk about that and really understanding it for ourselves, for our clients, and it can really help you with your marketing. It's to say, am I coming from a place of fear and pain in my own marketing? Am I attracting others in fear and pain? Because what I want to attract is people in the vision, understanding their obstacle and that they can accomplish something big if they get through that obstacle. And they want my help to do that.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. Cause think of how, man, like it's so counterculture, which I
Hmm.
love that. Like I love being a disruptor as well. So
Yes.
think about it though. Let's pick that apart just a little bit here. If I stand over here, like what the world is telling me, all of social media is curating for all of us to be super stressed out, super overwhelmed, totally in fear,
Mhm.
always against one another, always like in this conflict mode and constantly. Just think of what it's doing to us as women, to our sleep habits, to our bodies, to our
Yeah.
hormones, to our weight, to the way that we relate to our husbands and our children and the view of the world around us. But what you're talking about is how do I then actually shift over and not only be myself, embody somebody who walks in success right now, regardless of the number that I'm working towards. Like I actually have the ability to have profit in my business right now, success in my life right now, contentment, even as I'm working at goals, like satisfaction in who I am on the journey of expanding my business, expanding my mind, my mindset, expanding in what God's called me to do, like expanding my income, my impact, my just all these areas. Like I love this. This is just totally blowing my mind because as a disruptor myself, being
Yep.
able to come into the conversation from, yeah, but let's talk about what's possible. Yes,
Hmm.
I know that sometimes life is really hard. It can be really challenging at
Yeah.
times, but instead, what you're describing is instead of focusing 100% on that and the lack, it's really a lack mindset or a poverty mindset, like scripture would call
Hmm.
it a poverty mindset. Has nothing to do with the number that's in my bank account. It's the way that I'm thinking.
Yep.
And instead, actually moving over to an abundance mindset that says, um, there's always more than enough for me. There's more than enough clients for you. There's more than enough clients for me. There's more than enough clients for everybody who's listening with more than enough left over. And God's always working everything out for my good, right? Shifting and reminding ourselves that on a regular basis helps us to move into actually seeing that there's more possibilities out there for us instead of like in that where you're like constricting on yourself all the time,
Yep.
right? All of that
Yeah.
happens like right here in between my eyeballs. And so, this
Hmm.
gets me so excited to talk about it. I love it.
I love it too. And I think this is just something that is not talked about. And it's not flashy and sexy marketing. Like it's just not. And so people they go after the shocking things or the pain, the complaining, the frustration, the huge wins that they've had or somebody else has had. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't talk about those.
Mhm.
What I am saying is from our own personal heart is if I'm approaching my marketing and I'm approaching my people to say, I'm looking for the people who look like this.
Yeah.
And I am not scared that they're not going to see me or find me because guess what? As I reminded a client last week, I only have to have one conversation to make a sale.
Yeah.
You don't have to have thousands and thousands of leads. Now, is that great for your business? Absolutely. But you don't. I know women right now who have less than 5,000 followers on Instagram and they have $1 million business.
Hmm.
So you
Totally.
don't, there's like followers does not equal cash. And it's just these beliefs that were coming through and people are upset. The Facebook groups are dying or the Instagram is making it pay to play or this and that. There's always something. SEO on Google just crashed. Yes, all these things are true,
Hmm.
but I only need to have one conversation to make a sale. And so if we could say it's not gone away, it's still available to me and I get to show up and be my best self and have the confidence and the faith that if I'm really called to do this business, really it's supposed to be here and I believe in that, then I will have the success I'm supposed to have. But I have to show up
Yeah.
with that and not this whole I don't know, it's frustrating and it's not going to work and the algorithm and we blame everything or I don't have enough time or I keep getting interrupted. Interruptions are going to happen.
Yeah.
They're going to happen. How are we approaching that and how are we attracting the people who also have that same mindset? Because they're
Mm.
going to be our buyers. They're going to be our best buyers.
Yeah. That's awesome. Wow. As we wrap up here, Lani, like how can people connect with you more? This has been the most impactful, intense, and amazing conversation I've had. I love it. I'm so excited. But how can
Yeah, it's
people
been
reach
so
out and
awesome.
hear more about you?
You're welcome to join my free community, the Brilliant Mompreneurs Society. It's a really fun group. You get to come and talk about your own business. It's not a lot of rules in there except for don't be obnoxious. That's my biggest rule.
It's a good
So you don't have to be a mom entrepreneur in order to join, but that's how I originally started. It's for women entrepreneurs to come in. I tell them, I want you to connect in there. I want you to collaborate, and I want you to make a conversion if you join that group. So it's free to join. Come in and join this, hang out with us there. I'm also on Instagram, Lani Jackson. And I do have a free class on that first piece of that connection marketing funnel on how I use a 10-minute marketing strategy to gain new leads and followers every single week in just 10 minutes. So it works. It's how I grew my community to over 7,000. So it works. It's at LaniJackson.com/10 IN10. Oh, I was just going to say it's just a 10-minute strategy. It's really fun. So I know you'll enjoy it.
Okay, we'll make sure and put the link down in the show notes. God, Lani, thank you so much. First of all, I just want to honor you and what you're doing for your community. You are showing up and making a difference in the lives of women in the world. I'm so proud of you, and I just want to honor that in you. I honor where your heart is at as a mom and an entrepreneur and helping other women do the same thing that you're doing. You're modeling just being a disruptor and greatness. And I love that about you. And just for everybody who's listening today, we just want to thank Lani for being here. And like I said, we'll make sure and put a link to her free course that she mentioned in the show notes. Any parting thoughts?
I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me and for allowing me the opportunity to share my story. And I love just the vision and the message that you have and the way you encourage people. It's been just super fun. And hopefully we'll connect with those listening. And so excited to get to know you even better.
Yes, awesome. Okay, thanks, everybody.